Hey, what's up, guys? Wanted to rant real quick about something that's just bothering me. It's just annoying the shit out of me today. It's fake news, man. There's so much fake news that gets spread in the boxing world, on YouTube, on these Facebook groups, on Twitter. And unfortunately, what happens is some of these YouTube channels, they'll report just a completely made up rumor. Sometimes it's leaked to them from certain promotional outfits to thwart attention away from some bad news that they're getting or something like that. So it is a diversion tactic. And I mean, that's been going on forever. That's just media propaganda. But a lot of these channels, they're just political extremists and they're overzealous fans and things like that just make shit up. And unfortunately, there are a lot of kids out there and new boxing fans, uneducated boxing fans, people that are new to the sport, casual fans, whatever, that look at these YouTube channels or Twitter accounts or whatever, Facebook groups as a news source. So they start spreading this rumor and then it ends up becoming a story. And I see this all the time. It's just annoying because, I'll be at the gym and some of the kids, they would talk to me, whatever, and they'll say, well, what about this? What about that? And I have to explain to them that it's completely made up. And I'm made to look like a hater or whatever it is just for telling the truth because they've been so indoctrinated into a particular line of thinking, and particularly like a us versus them type of scenario is what it always somehow boils down to. So the two of them that I saw this week that are just annoying the shit out of me because they're completely made up is number one, that PBC made an offer to Gennady Golovkin to fight Jermall Charlo. And you're seeing, they'll sprinkle in some little details to try to make it look official. Like one was going to be on the Zone, one was going to be on Fox. There were 2-fight deals, stuff like that. Completely made up. Completely made up. Yet I'm seeing posts on Facebook groups and I'm seeing tweets. I'm having people DM me and ask me about this. It's being reported, quote unquote, as Triple G ducking Charlo when there's absolutely zero truth to this. The fact of the matter is there have been offers from multiple fighters in multiple promotional outfits made to Charlo. And a lot of times his own management, his own people didn't even tell Charlo. He didn't even know. He had to find out through the media. So there have been other fighters out there who themselves made offers, or their promotional outfits, their management, whatever, made offers to Charlo, and he's either rejected them, he's been advised to reject them, or it was rejected before he even knew about it. That's the truth. And I could go in and I could cite a bunch of sources and go back years with this, but it wouldn't even be worth it, okay? Those of you who follow the sport and follow legitimate media sources, you know what the truth is here. So it just, the propaganda and the agenda, some of these guys are just doing clickbait to try to make a quick buck. Some of these guys are political extremists with an axe to grind and they're threatened and insecure and they go after particular fighters or promoters, networks, whatever it is, depending on the political alliances that they have. And for the record, this stuff does go in all directions, in all corners of the boxing fan universe. But here in the United States, there tends to be one particular group more than others that engages in this propaganda. And what's annoying for me is that I have to explain the truth to people who have been indoctrinated with half-truths or just flat-out lies. And there's only a handful of us out there that will actually take the time to talk to some of these newer fans and try to educate them and explain what's really going on. That becomes tiring. But then on top of it, man, it's really, really divisive. Boxing is a niche sport in the United States. In most countries, it's a niche sport, right? We're not a top 5 sport. We're maybe not even a top 10 sport. There's only a handful of times a year where we break through and we truly are a top 5 sport here in the United States. And it's already like such a small bubble, such a small group. What sucks is you have bubbles within the bubble and all this infighting and all this propaganda and all these agendas, when we all should be supporting each other and just trying to get the best fights made and reporting the truth and trying to educate a new generation of fans that come up and understand boxing history, how we got here, what's real and what's bullshit in this era. Unfortunately, there are certain promotional outfits, there are media executives that work with them, and certain media, whether the writers or commentators, whoever, that work with them, that just engage in flat out propaganda, flat out bullshit, And again, all promotional outfits do this, but some seem to be doing it more than others. And there's even some that leak certain things, whether directly or indirectly, to some of these extremists on YouTube and stuff to push false narratives, completely made up bullshit. So anyway, just to set the record straight, guys, there is literally zero truth to the rumor. It's not a story. It's not a talking point. It's a rumor. There's zero truth to the rumor that Charlo's side, PBC, made an offer to Triple G. That is completely made up, and it's absolute bullshit. Number two, I saw a snippet. Again, these videos get forwarded to me, and I look at them, 20, 30 seconds, whatever it is, where there was a popular YouTube channel out there trying to claim that Wladimir Klitschko, former heavyweight champion Wladimir Klitschko, ducked heavyweight title holder Deontay Wilder years ago before he ended up retiring. That is complete, unadulterated bullshit, completely made up. And this narrative, I've seen it kind of poking through recently. It's funny how these guys wait years and years later to start making up bullshit and propaganda after the story. But I can tell you guys directly that, I live in Atlanta now, but I was out in LA for a decade, and that's the hot scene right there, in the United States with boxing. So I was, in the gyms and talking to people, and I had a lot of sources out there. But moving here to Atlanta, I'm in the part of the country Deontay Wilder's from. And he, coming up, trained at a lot of the gyms out here. He's met a lot of the people in the Atlanta boxing community. And I've talked with these folks, and I've been talking with several of them for years now, even before I moved out here. And I've got a lot of skinny on Deontay coming up, a lot of the story. I can tell you right now, okay, there's basically a gentleman's agreement for Deontay Wilder and Wladimir Klitschko back when he was the legitimate heavyweight champion of the world for a decade and put on an all-time great winning streak that will put him among the top dozen or so heavyweights of all time going forward. But there was kind of a gentleman's agreement between the camps for them never to fight. And they were molding Deontay to be the new guy after Wladimir left. And they all thought in the end that, Vlad would beat Fury and everything like that. Vlad would kind of walk off into the sunset and Deontay would eventually be the new guy. Yes, they did spar. It did not go well for Deontay Wilder. He ended up on his back, okay? But who gives a shit? It's sparring. And at that time, Vlad was the baddest man on earth. Deontay was still learning and coming up. It's sparring. So who gives a shit if Deontay got sparked out? I think people make way too much of sparring wars. Sparring is a learning process. You're going to get dropped. You're going to get hurt. You're even going to get knocked out sometimes in sparring. It happens to everybody. So I don't really give a shit that Vlad KO'd Deontay in sparring or anything like that. That really doesn't matter. But there was enough there. The people that were handling Deontay Wilder knew what they had and knew what they didn't have. And there's, again, basically a gentleman's agreement that they were never going to fight. At one point, when the WBC title was vacant, and they were trying to sanction a fight between, I think, Bermane Stiverne and Chris Arreola, right? I was at both of those fights. They fought twice. But one of them was for that vacant title. And eventually, I think Stiverne won it, and Wilder was his mandatory. That was basically the politics of boxing working, where Mauricio Sulaiman, the WBC, and their close relationship with Don King, and their close working relationship now with Al Haymon, they basically sold, Don King basically sold that heavyweight title to Al Haymon, right? That's basically what that ended up being. Everybody knew that Wilder was going to beat Stiverne. At least most people felt comfortable taking that chance in Wilder's camp. But Wladimir was willing and wanted to fight for that WBC title. That was the one title he couldn't win because his brother held it. And before that, when briefly some other fighters held it, tied to Don King, they weren't going to do business with Wladimir Klitschko because the Klitschkos told Don King to go get fucked years ago when he tried to scam them when they were just coming up. This has all been documented, and you guys, again, if you're educated fight fans, you know all about this history. But Wladimir Klitschko was willing to pay Deontay Wilder step-aside money so that he could get to Stiverne, and then he could fight Wilder after that. Wilder would get the winner between Klitschko and Stiverne. Deontay Wilder's side demanded $10 million, 8 figures, literally 8 figures in step-aside money, which is absolutely ridiculous, right? That was basically their way of saying, no, we're not going to do this. We're going to go right for the title because, again, his side wanted absolutely no part of Wladimir Klitschko. In terms of styles, Vlad's style was all wrong for Deontay Wilder. Any version of Deontay Wilder ever. Yes, he could maybe land that magical right hand and score a knockout against Klitschko or really any heavyweight in history. But the problem is he doesn't set it up. He doesn't work behind the jab. He doesn't set it up. He can't fight backing up. His angles and spacing are all trash. Klitschko would have seen that right hand coming from last week. And I always said the same thing. If Deontay Wilder fights Anthony Joshua, I think Anthony Joshua beats him. I've been saying that for years, long before we saw Wilder lose to Tyson Fury, just because of styles. Wladimir Klitschko was all wrong for Deontay Wilder. His handlers knew this. They weren't going to ever go anywhere near him. So the fact of the matter is, it was Wilder's side that never wanted any part of Klitschko, and understandably so. They were trying to do a certain thing there, lowest risk, highest reward, smoke and mirrors, build him up a different way. You see this with other fighters right now. Gervonta Davis, a few months from now is going to be marketed as a 3-division world champion when he only has really held one legitimate world title at 130. His title is at 135, and the title he's about to grab at 140 that he's going to poach is not the legitimate title. It's the WBA regular. We know who the lightweight champion of the world is. It's Teofimo Lopez. And the 140-pound champion will be the winner between Josh Taylor and Jose Carlos Ramirez. Again, a fight that is on regular ESPN, where you're going to get Davis and Barrios on pay-per-view on Showtime, and you're getting Andy Ruiz and Chris Arreola pay-per-view on Fox. By the way, a lot of this propaganda coming out this week, don't be surprised if we learn later on that this was leaked to thwart attention away from the bad press that the proposed pay-per-view fight between Ruiz and Arreola is getting. That's how this shit works, guys. It works just like politics, just like the White House, just like Congress. People use leaks in the media to thwart attention away from the stuff that's going on, while both political parties are equally butt-fucking the middle class and the working class of this country at the same time with no Vaseline. But they keep people fighting about bullshit that really don't matter. It's the same shit in boxing. A lot of you guys are out there worried about things that don't matter. You're arguing over stuff that doesn't matter. Meanwhile, you're getting fucked in the ass, no Vaseline, by a lot of these promoters and networks who are not putting on the best fights. You got Taylor Ramirez on regular ESPN. I tweeted about that this week, and there were people out there saying, oh, nobody knows who the hell they are. Who gives a shit? Really? That's the 2 best guys in the division fighting each other in their prime, putting every damn title on the line. That has not happened in a while. It did happen with Terrence Bud Crawford a few years back, but that was a much weaker 140 division. This 140 division is much stronger, and these 2 guys are fighting each other in their absolute prime. The winner between Taylor Ramirez is a top pound-for-pound fighter, top 10 pound-for-pound fighter on earth. So you should be supporting that. And look, Tank Davis versus Mario Barrios, that's a fun fight if it's on regular Showtime. My concern, my worry, and I'm not saying that this is official, this is just my hunch, is that that's going to Showtime pay-per-view. Meanwhile, people are going to defend that and talk about Gervonta Davis as a 3-division world champion, and guys like me are going to have to explain to them that he's not. That he held a legitimate world title at 130, but was never the champion. By the way, that fight against Pedraza, that's his best win. And that's 4 years ago, guys. He's done little to nothing since. That Santa Cruz win was not better than his win over Pedraza for several reasons. Educated fight fans know where I'm going with all that. But his title at 135 is complete bullshit because the real champion is Teofimo Lopez. The title he's about to grab at 140. Real champion going to be between Taylor Ramirez. So on and on it goes with the propaganda, the spin, the bullshit, the agenda. A few of us out there are taking the time to tell you guys the truth. And unfortunately, we get labeled all sorts of nasty terms. And then I get put on blacklist and people don't want to hire me for jobs because they know I'm going to step up here and tell the truth. That's the way this shit works, man. So support people out there that are actually trying to tell you the truth and decipher through all the bullshit because there's too much fake news out there right now. Boxing is no different than any other form of entertainment and media. Half of what you hear is complete bullshit. It is a way to market to people who don't know any better. So anyway, just had to reiterate. There was never an offer from Charlo to Golovkin. Wladimir Klitschko never ducked Deontay Wilder. In fact, it was Wilder's side that agreed to avoid Klitschko. So wanted to put those 2 things to bed. I'll see you at the fights. Peace.